Well, here we are, and it's been a year since the start of our this pandemic, and that first 2 week shutdown, I think it was, wasn't it? 2 weeks for a shutdown, and to flatten the curve. And what a year it's been. I think of I think last year, I think it was just after, or just after the fourth Sunday of Lent, I think, uh, when the shutdown happened. I remember we scattered out and I don't know, trying to figure out microphones and cameras and video and recording and all of this stuff. It's been quite a year, and it's kind of interesting to me then that here we are a year later, and we have this particular text about how God loves the world. If you remember at the start of the pandemic, a question that a lot of people were asking was, where is God in this pandemic? And did God send COVID and all of that? I recall St. Paul's Cathedral in London in the UK had a great series of videos looking into all of those questions, different theologians and folks commenting on where is God in the pandemic. And so a year after that, and we have this wonderful text about how God loves the world. And God did not send the world to condemn the world or to judge the world. They're just with that little point, I must say, I do take issue, and I know it's not just me, of course, with the translation, the NRSV translation in this passage about condemn. I think it should be more properly be translated as judge. Everywhere else it means judge. And so this great passage about God did not send Jesus to judge the world, um, but to save us, to save the world, not to judge it, not to condemn it, but to save it. And I think, how many times in our history have we seemed to have missed the God is love memo? You think of how we have um, historically treated women, um, people of different religions, maybe even among different denominations. So many times we seem to have missed the God is love, and it's all about love. The whole Christian journey is about love. Um, I sometimes worry with our world these days. This last year, I think it's been going on for quite a while, but it seems like there's this new sort of tribalism that's developing. And that I think is really harmful because well, for all sorts of reasons, but one of which is those ideas don't allow for the glorious, wonderful creation that every single human being is. The entire world, the entire human family. And that's what I think a lot of folks have missed in this passage is it's about God love the world. The world. Not just our group. It's not about insiders and outsiders. And even still, it seems to me we can have Christian groups who will seem to think that they have a monopoly on determining who's in and who's out. And sadly, this text is one of those ones that has been used some of the time in our own past to um, ratify, support our own sort of Christian tribalism. And that's not what this reading is about. It's about God's love for the whole world, for you, for me, and even all those people that we don't like or don't agree with, or the people that rub me the wrong way, the people that get under my skin, that they're also a child of God. God loves the whole world. And, before Jesus, the prophets, different passages in the prophets, they tried to highlight and rail against, object to a strictly tribal sort of interpretation of God and say that's not what God's about. God's not about just those who keep this set of rules or those who just only jump through this group of hoops, or that no, God loves all people. Jesus did not come to condemn the world. Jesus came to show us what love looks like. And that is an all-inclusive love. Every single child of God, the entire creation. There's no insiders and outsiders. I mean, if you think, thinking the first epistle of John, it's so simple. Beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. For God is love. God's love was revealed among us in this way. God sent us his only Son into the world so that we might live through him. And this is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son. Beloved, since God loved us so much, we also ought to love one another. It's so simple, isn't it? It's so unequivocal. And yet we have so complicated things up on occasion. This is not a text that is about only our God. I think that what Jesus tried to show to us, and as I say, the prophets before him too, with this idea of only our God, is that a God who just chooses sides, that's not who God is. Not just the God who sees everything exactly the way I see things and feels about, say, particular people, perhaps exactly the way I feel in terms of those people that maybe I don't agree with or approve of, or whatever that might be. So this text is not about insiders and outsiders. It's about God's love for the world. Every single person. We're all part of the same human family. And so for me, I find this to be a motivating text and an energizing text, and it's like a boost somehow, this text, that we take that love, that message, that vision about the world, and we share that wherever we possibly can, and we put our energy and our lives into building that kind of a world, a world where it's one human family. All of us come from the same source, from God. God's family. And the way, God's dream for us and for our world is that we love one another, that we act lovingly toward one another, person to person and nation to nation and continent to continent, that we act lovingly. Could you imagine that kind of a world? Could you imagine a world where, I don't know, national economies and all of our programs and the focus of the government was on light? The whole focus was about what is the loving thing? How do we bring light into the world? That would be something. Well, that's what we Christians work toward. God loves the whole world. And that for me is a motivating thing and an energizing thing. And hopefully it works that way with you too. Amen.